As we sit here tonight, we call upon the sacred light of Source, the divine masculine and the divine feminine. We call upon our spirit guides, angels, ascended masters, light beings, and galactic guides, our ancestors, nature spirits, and animal guides. We invite in Archangel Michael, Narsingha, and Hanuman, as well as the energy of Phi and the spider, to weave a web of sacred geometry around our space for protection. We call upon Ganesh to open the path, and we call upon Thoth, the keeper of wisdom and time, to open the gates to the Akashic records so that we may download knowledge and wisdom. Spirit guides, as we sit here tonight, we ask to connect with the energy of the Fall Equinox, to receive any messages about this time of year for the collective and for us personally. Anything that we need to balance in our lives or see more deeply, please allow us to see and hear these messages in this moment. And anything else you would like us to know. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And with that, the sacred circle is now open. Namaste.
As you were opening, I saw a long, windy road on the side of a hill or a mountain. And it's like the time of day when it's starting to get dark out, but it's still like it's darker on Earth, but the sky is still kind of bright. It's that sort of twilight time. And I can see the dotted yellow line of the road and the metal guardrail. So this is a very sort of windy road. And then I see it come to this sort of like levels out and the winding stops, and I see a white 3-story colonial house, colonial style house, and it has a candle in each window. And all of a sudden, like the wind picks up and I see leaves and debris and stuff below, and then the front door of the house blows open. And as it blows open, I can suddenly see that I'm inside the house, and I'm watching a woman putting a white candle in a mason jar. And in order to get the candles to stand up in the mason jar so she can put them in the window, she lights the end of the candle and lets some wax drop in the mason jar and uses that to adhere the candle in there. And I can kind of just see her going through each window in the house, not just the ones in the front, but all of them, to put a mason jar with a white candle in each window. And she has period clothing on, and she's wearing a little white, like, hat's a strong word. It's not quite a bonnet, but it's a sort of white thing that goes over the head. And it folds back and ties underneath. It kind of reminds me of what Amish women or Quaker women wear. But everything about this house and her outfits and what she's doing feels very dated. But I know that this is in modern context because I saw the road and the pavement and the metal guardrails. But that she's doing it in a very peaceful sort of, she's not rushing, she's taking her time, but there seems to be a seriousness of intent with her. And even though the door of the house blew open, there's something welcoming about it. I almost feel like this place was at one point may have been on a road that was used as a traveler's road. It may have been an inn or a tavern or something like that. and it was a welcome site for people that were traveling. It may have been on a path that was used in early colonial times to travel. That's all for now. I'm gonna sit with it and see what else I can get.
So I was seeing Dana, I was really seeing and feeling what you were saying. And what Spirit was showing me is this cabin, wooden cabin. And I have been here before, actually, quite recently. And it's funny, actually, Dana, because the woman you were talking about, like when I came to this place before, she wasn't there, but I really felt her energy in there. Like I'm not seeing her anymore, but like I was feeling her energy, filling up the candles, putting them on the windows. It was really interesting. But anyway, so it's this little cabin that I'm seeing, and there's a man inside. He's one of my spirit guides. His name is Aragon. And he's near this wooden desk, and he has a sword with the blade facing down, and he's sharpening it. And he said, "What are you doing?" And I don't, he said, "We have to prepare." And he said, "Okay." And he said, "Winter is coming." It reminds me of that. I didn't watch that show, but I know there's some show with that slogan. Um, but anyway, so then I looked to my left, and there's a large shadowy figure kind of lurking in the shadows um behind me or to the side of me. And I said, "Oh, who is that?" And my guide looked at me and he kind of smiled and he's like, "That's your counterpart." And I said, "Oh, is it my shadow self or our shadow self?" And he very nonchalantly just said, "No, it's death." Um, but I feel again like this is a twofold thing. I feel like it's kind of a personal, but I feel like it's also collective. And when he said death, I'm really feeling just like the energy of coming into winter and things dying. And um, but that's all for now. I'm gonna sit with it as well and see what else I get from him. Thank
It's very interesting what you just said, because um what I was continuing to receive is I was seeing a time when this house, was a welcome site, and I'm getting the feeling of someone coming in after traveling in the dark, and the feeling of them coming in from the cold, and the feeling of the warmth of the fire. There's a big fireplace on the one wall in this house, and it's very brick, and it's a kind of fireplace that takes up a good portion of one of the walls. You could like literally walk into this fireplace, and there's a bunch of people in chairs sitting by the fire, and there's a feeling of a male traveler coming in and taking his sort of like jacket's cloak thing off, and it's almost like I can see the ruddiness in his cheeks from the cold, but I can also feel the warmth of the fire on his cheeks, or he's allowing me to feel this feeling he had when he went to this place. And he's joining a group of people gathered by the fire. And I'm getting the feeling from them of like, oh, we've been waiting for you. And not just him, or me or any of us here. But I feel like they're saying that there's a spot by the warmth of the fire for everyone to join. And there's a feeling of everyone having gathered at this house, and they're very happy to see each other, but it's not necessarily something that happens often, but it's very dear to everyone when they're able to make it there. And when you were speaking of the death being there lurking in the shadows, I feel like what Death's saying to them is that there's a fire here, and that it means you can let go of what you don't need and what no longer serves you. And I see this man that came in from the dark reach into his pocket, and he's pulling out these little like pieces of paper that have like dried bits of foliage and leaves, like herbs that had been preserved or flowers. And he's taking them out and kind of looking at them and like one by one feeding them to the fire. And as he does that, there's just this like, you can, like, I feel like he put rosemary in there, and I could smell the rosemary. And as he's putting things in there, you can smell things, and you see little flashes of colors, a little bit of flowers coming out of the fire. It's almost like the fire is being given parts of these like herbs and flowers and crops that they need to get through the winter. But all of the hard work of the harvest and the growing season and the watering of them and the worrying about them working out and all of the energy that goes into actually grow and harvest these things, anything that may have been connected to stress or hard work or hardship, by giving the stuff into the fire, that aspect of it is like released. So they can go into winter and be able to rest without worry. It's the feeling that I'm getting, that death is also letting go of what you don't need and what no longer serves you, and that is a welcome thing. That in that aspect, death is a welcome traveler like everyone else in the house. And I just feel such a cozy sense of warmth in this place. And it just makes me wish I had a fire to sit by. It just feels very sweet. But that's all for now. Thank you.
As soon as you invited Archangel Michael in, I felt his presence. He's one of my primary guides. And I immediately got the sense that he had a message for somebody. And the name that came to me was Jade. I don't know who that is or if it means anything to anybody. I was trying to connect the JA to Jacqueline or something, and it's just my brain getting in the way. But the message had something to do with a man, and it had something to do with death. And I was reluctant to say that until Dana just explained how death can be a welcome traveler. Because it may not actually mean the death of a man, but rather the letting go of something that no longer serves. That's all I have for now.
I saw a bird descending towards me, and then I had a vision of a all black car. It might have been a hearse. It was an old school car. It was all black tinted windows, riding down the street, and afterwards, I've just been seeing a lot of energy clearing and releasing. That's all for now.
What I think is interesting, Tom, about your message related to jade is one of the things I saw when I looked into the fire was as the herbs were going in, one of the things I saw with this puff of green smoke, kind of um like a sort of like sometimes you see this in the fireworks, the new fireworks that they have that people buy for the kids to throw down, and it's like it looks like a poof of like dust or chalk. This I saw that in the fire and it was green. Uh I don't know how that feels connected to me, but it does. I just wanted to share.
I wanted to share something, something else I was seeing in this cabin. So I don't remember exactly what sparked it. I think it was um something Dana said, and even so, like I said, I've been to the cabin I'm seeing. I've been to before and recently in another journey, and I had this weird feeling. My guide was kind of looking at me with this smirk on his face, and I'm like this smile, like I know something, but he's not telling me what it is. And so it just had me feeling all these things, and I just started to feel into the cabin, and I looked at him and I said, "This was my cabin at some point." And he said, "Yes." And then so quickly I got the feeling I hid something in this cabin. And he said, "Yes." And he kind of looked up and over in this um, one direction. And so I turned and I said, "It's in the wall." And so I went over to the wall, and I was just like happened so quickly and so intuitively, just this knowing that I hid something there. And so I kind of touched the side of this like panel, and out pops this stone. And I kind of knew already that it was the philosopher's stone. And what's interesting is it came out rolling, and it just reminded me of a coin, like you know how if you take like a quarter or something and you spin it, or it's just like rolling, like when you drop it, it rolls. It For whatever reason, it really reminded me of that. um and then when Dana, when you were speaking about the fire, I could also see the fire place in this corner, and I felt the warmth from it. And as soon as I felt the warmth, my entire body just relaxed. It was like I had been so tense for so long, and then all of a sudden it was just like like that breath of like relaxation, and it was so calming. Um but yeah, that's all for now.
I heard someone say she needs to sit down. That's all for now.
I saw so first I heard the song by the Beatles, Blackbird. Blackbird singing in the dead of night, the one that goes like that. And I saw a vintage long car come up this winding road. And the car, Spirit was showing me that the car was once this sort of baby blue, but it's now painted black. And it's a very, very long car, the kind where the front of the car, the hood like goes on for what feels like ever. It reminds me of a car my grandmother had when I was younger. And then I see a man in a mid-century sort of old man type of clothing get out of the car, and there's a woman who has like a pocketbook. She's also has like vintage mid-century traditional clothing on. She helps him out of the car. He has crutches and a cast. And then I see him sitting on a lawn chair watching the leaves falling off of this gorgeous kind of collection of trees behind the house. And I see red trees and red and yellow leaves, and red and yellow leaves together in the same thing. And he's just sitting there in that chair for most of the day, watching the leaves fall and kind of watching the movement of the shadow and light across the yard, like where, you know, how if you sit outside for long enough, like you might start the day in the shade, but then you're in the sun and then you're in the shade again. It was that. And I just can get the sense of him sitting in that chair, and like that's the most he could do was like get out of the house and sit in that lawn chair. And he has this sort of thick cardigan on that looks super, super warm, and it has these, like, I can see the leather buttons on it and arm patches, and he just sat there and he watched the leaves, and I just get the feeling from him that he had never really done something like that. And I don't know, it just feels like, I don't know, just feels like a really special moment to him, a really special thing to be able to do. And it just has me giving me the feeling of, or the impression of, like, how few people maybe are able to do or would do something like that. And I think that's the point, is that that's the thought he had. And he's like, well, why did most of my life I just never did anything like this? It's like he was really seeing the light for the first time and seeing the way the leaf fell from the trees and the wind blows. And I don't know, I was just having a real, like, moment, an awakening of some sort in this moment that was fueled by his initial sadness of being, like, kind of forced to sit still by whatever happened to his leg. And I feel like maybe that car that was seen before, I feel like he's somehow connected to that, and he may have lived in this house too at some point. But that's all for now.
I see water coming from a like a white pipe in the earth, and the ground is broken around this I guess pipe that the water's coming out of. That's all for now.
Well, all of a sudden, I saw spirit, like, I saw this hand drop down a red apple. And as soon as they did that, all of these dogs started coming and like very aggressively biting the apple, and there was like too many of them, and yeah, they were just like going crazy with this apple. And one, I think there's this energy of like, um not that there's not enough to go around, but it's just like greedy. It's a little bit greedy. And also another energy of like biting off more than you can chew is another thing that's coming through. I don't know how this relates to everything else, but that's what I was seeing. That's all for now.
I have a song in my head called What a Wonderful Life. All for now.
I saw a man come out um, and sit in a chair that was next to a van or a Jeep, and it's daytime, and a woman was opening the trunk to the car, and I saw smoke coming from where she was standing. Almost felt like there was a barbecue possibly going on, though I couldn't tell exactly what the smoke was coming from. Um, but it looked like it was a fenced area, like a wooden fenced area, kind of like privacy height. Um, that's all for now.
I'm seeing an apple orchard, and I can see the rows and rows of trees in like almost a perfect line. And I can see the green grass with the sort of like ditches, like how you have to sometimes like walk between the trees and then like climb up a little bit. And I can see a couple um like walking to pick apples, and they have the like wooden like crate type apple buckets and the like grabber thing to get the apples from the tree. And it just feels like a really um beautiful fall day, but I'm aware of both the chill in the air and the feeling again of that cold on my face and my hands, and almost like kind of getting like up in the back of my neck, but also the warmth of being bundled up in the jackets, and almost the warmth too of being together and then hitting patches of the sun and really feeling it. And it's interesting because she's wearing his what looks like a varsity jacket or something like that, and I keep trying to look at the name that's embroidered on the like front pouch of the jacket, and I can't quite see it, but I can see the like instead of seeing the name, I'm like zooming in so close that I see the stitching where it would have been like embroidered on in a script kind of font, and the jacket's red and the stitching is yellow. And I feel like I'm seeing this isn't the first time lots of combinations of reds and yellows in this journey. But there's also the sense of the couple, and I guess they must be teenagers then. Whether they feel older because of the varsity jacket, maybe it's more of a college age thing or something. But just a feeling of them like being very comfortable around each other. But still there's this element of a sort of spark or electricity or something in the air, and really kind of almost the balancing of that feeling of like feeling that excitement of another person, but with also still feeling very comfortable with them. It almost feels like maybe this moment with the apple picking and doing this feels like it solidified their relationship or something. I don't know who they are or why they're coming forward. I feel like they are connected to someone here. This feels somehow personal. But I can't really like pinpoint it exactly. That's all for now. Thank you. Also, there's one more thing I feel like I'm being called to say. Is it something about like the feeling of like actually wanting to hold someone's hand? I feel like they really want to hold each other's hand. Just for that sense of just closeness to another person, or the just like the hand itself is like warming, and this isn't about like cold or hot warming, but it's almost like a balancing of their energy, or like the energy of it's really they're really complementing each other in this way that brings each of them both excitement and peace. That's it for now.
I saw an image of Mickey Mouse. I don't know if Mickey Mouse is significant to anyone. But then I also immediately switched to seeing um the entrance of someone's house, or the patio, like steps leading up to someone's house with a small patio and like a small amount of like uh Halloween decorations. That's all for now.
Keep seeing pink flowers, and I can't tell if it's a bee or a hummingbird, but it's something flapping really fast, like either one of those would do. And I don't think this is related to that, but there's a message of getting out of your own way and surrendering into your greatness. That's all I have.
I have two songs that came in. One is Hold My Hand, and then the other one is Venus Baby, I Got It.
I am at what is like a football game. I can see the bleachers, I can see the people in it, I can see the field. And even though I know there's an entire game going on there, I just see one person on the field. It's a male, and he is on like a football uniform. There's something maybe that feels a little dated about it, not completely contemporary. And I can see I guess, I don't know what it's called, the goalpost or whatever, that sort of like tall thing that has at the end of the field. And I can just see him on the field, and I can see the numbers with the lines, like, and it's as if all of a sudden I'm seeing him down at the end, like by the goalpost. I apologize for the lack of football terms here. And I can see him, and it's all of a sudden as I see him, he's very like muscular and built, and like what you stereotypically think of a football player to look like. And all of a sudden I see come out of the back of his back these like really beautiful like white wings. And what's interesting is I get that he like scored in the game, and like that moment of him scoring in the game brings him back to that memory of being in the apple orchard. And when he scores, like he's over, he's happy, and all this memory of joy and peace watches over him of being in the apple orchard and eating an apple like fresh off the tree. And I can just almost like feel the juiciness of the apple and the crunchiness of it, and almost the feeling of the apple like getting on his face and his hand, because it's like so ripe and so delicious, and he's taken somehow back to that moment. And when that happens, like I see something that resembles the like angel wings or something come out of his back. It's very interesting. I'm not really sure exactly how to interpret it, but that's what Spirit's showing me. And I almost am feeling like in the background, I can't quite hear it, but it's like the sound of feet and everything hitting the bleachers and the sound of like some sort of like cheer, or something like, if you go to a sports game and, they do like, let's go team thing, but everyone's doing in unison. Yeah, that's all for now.
I'm seeing all these little children. I didn't know what was going on at first, but I'm seeing a lot of children dressed up. I guess for Halloween, they all got on different things. Little kid with wigs, like bright neon wigs and glasses, and everyone's dressed in something different, and they're getting pictures taken of them. That's all for now.
I have love songs coming in my head, like love songs. That's all for now.
I'm getting a similar Halloween costume vibe. um, I'm sitting here and all of a sudden I was just like feeling this energy of spirit like all around my head and my shoulders. And I was kind of just asking who's there, what's happening. And I'm seeing my guides come and they're like gluing these little needles, like a porcupine, quills all over me. And it reminded me of the costumes. And I said, why the porcupine? And the only thing I'm getting for now is protection. I'm gonna sit with it for another second, but that's all for now.
Jacqueline, when you were talking about the porcupine quills, I was getting, I heard spirit say it's okay to keep a distance. I'm not sure how that connects to the message of the porcupine, but I feel like they were saying it's okay to keep a distance. I'm seeing an apple pie and someone putting, I can see like all the mixture from the bowl. I can see like the flour and everything is being put into a pie crust, and someone's doing like a crisscross sort of banding on top of the pie. I don't know what it's called, but it's when the pie, like, for some of the apple stuff still kind of like oozes out the top of it. And I can kind of smell cloves and spices and like just the feeling of something being like sugary. Someone's just making a pie and I just feel very like, I don't know, like the smell and taste and kind of texture of the pie before it's cooked is just coming to me. That's all for now.
I have a song in my head talking about a guy talking about they're in love with a girl's body. That's all for now.
I just saw someone taking the lid off of something, and that's when I realized that it was a coffin and a woman was lying in the coffin. That's all for now.
That's so weird because right before you said that, and I'm still kind of tapping in to see what else, but there's someone, a man, I don't know exactly who, just came and literally put a sword through my back. Like I said, that's all I got, and then he started talking. So I'm gonna sit with it for a second, but that's very strange.
I just keep hearing the sword of truth. That's all.
I'm seeing what is a Halloween party for sure. It's in a house, and there's a screened in porch off of the kitchen, and in the screened in porch area, there's a metal tub that's filled with water and apples, like the bobbing for apples game. And I'm just seeing like adults and kids. And what's interesting is I feel like I'm almost seeing it from a kid's perspective, because like with the adults being bigger, but everyone has on like different costumes. It sounds like a party does, where people are like talking, and there's the faint sound of music coming from in the house. And everyone has different costumes on, but I can see that some of the costumes are like there's like a skeleton and there's a witch, and they're almost like stereotypically Halloween, like scary costumes. But there's so much like joy at this Halloween party. You know, there's like people bobbing for apples, there's, you know, people are drinking, there's food, music. And everyone's just having like a really good time. And again, there's that feeling of like warmth and, you know, joy and just having fun, you know, like, you know, dressing up and just, you know, I don't know, expressing like a part of yourself through that dressing up. And it just kind of makes me think, you know, that it's bringing kind of up for me that like Halloween is an interesting time, because some people, you know, find so many scary aspects of it, but there's also a lot of joy. Like people love like getting dressed up and putting the costumes on and pretending to be scared, and you know, the candy and all of the other fun, joyous things that are connected to it. Also this odd like sort of tribute to light, you know, with like the pumpkins and, you know, kind of the sense of like things being lit up in the night, people walking around and going to the doors. There's just something so welcoming and joyful about it, even connected with this other sort of like scarier, darker side of it. And I'm just really like feeling that joy for playing at being scared. I don't know how to put it, the kind of joy you have for Halloween as a kid, or if you're like me, someone who really loves Halloween. And I'm just really being filled with that and reminded of that, and the sort of specialness of that night and that time. And it's interesting because the whole journey kind of feels to me like an ode to some of my favorite things about the fall. There's an odd sense of gratitude that I'm feeling right now connected to this Halloween party. That's all for now.
I'm hearing remember the dead. That's all for now.
I'm hearing honor your dead, like your dead loved ones on the Day of the Dead. That's all for now. I have a song lyrics in my head talking about "Come on, be my baby." That's all for now.
I'm feeling this heaviness and ache on my left shoulder, and like an ache around my left collarbone. Everything feels kind of in that area, left shoulder, left collarbone, left side of my head, like a heaviness. Um, yeah, it's all on like the left side. That's all for now.
Been hearing from the spirit team saying that fall is about finding new love, and I keep getting love like songs like back to back.
I heard the halls of a mentee. That's all for now.
I heard that fall is supposed to be about spending time with loved ones and family members. That's all for now.
I'm seeing a group of kids in costumes. And there's one kid who's wearing a costume that looks like a choir robe, like the choir robes that someone would wear when they sing in like a church choir or something. And as I realized that, all of a sudden, I realized that all the kids are lined up the way a choir would be lined up. And they're singing, and their mouths are moving, and they're going through like the motions of singing. But instead of hearing songs, I just hear this sort of like, I don't even know what the sound is I'm hearing, but it's like, I guess similar to when you listen to those like frequency music on like YouTube, where it's like hertz frequencies and things like that, where it like sounds like music but it doesn't, because it's just like a certain frequency or pitch, but there's no context of like where they're singing. They're just like suspended in this nowhere, just singing. It's but there's something very like light and elevating about it, and kind of otherworldly in a way. That's all for now. And there's a feeling I have of having like floated up, like I feel kind of like I'm floating, and I can literally almost feel the pressure of myself being pulled up, and it's as if I can see the house and the apple orchard and the football field and everything sort of just like below me, and it's like I'm going higher and higher up, and it's getting smaller and smaller, and I feel like I'm like literally feeling like I'm in the clouds or something like that, and this feeling of like sinking, both being lifted up while at the same time sinking into something like soft and warm and just so comforting, and feeling like suddenly very like sleepy and tired, and like I could very comfortably just fall asleep. That's all for now. And I feel as if for me, the sort of going up into the clouds and a sort of sense of like peaceful sleepiness has me sort of like out of the space of journeying. And I wanted to see if before I close the circle, if anyone else was receiving anything or had any messages that they would like to share. I'm gonna go ahead and close then. Thank you, Spirit, for all that you've shared with us and showing us. Thank you for the reminders about this sort of multiple ways to view death, for the reminders about the joys of fall and all of the things in it that there are for us to love. We are eternally grateful and deeply thankful to all spirits and beings who joined us tonight. Thank you for the wisdom and knowledge you shared, the guidance you provided, and the gifts you gave us. We ask for your continued guidance in the coming days as we work to integrate the messages delivered for further awareness and healing. We call again on the sacred light of Source to replenish us with the eternal love of Source, and may the great divine white light of love shine down into us and flow freely through us. May this love fill our days and inform all of our decisions. Thank you, thank you, thank you. With this, the sacred circle is now closed. Namaste.